Friday, you've entered the power struggle already. You can't go to school, but you can go to your friend. I'm not approving of who you are.
Oh my gosh. Hi there, I'm Richelle and welcome to another session of Subject Matter. Prior to lockdown, we had an incredibly insightful interview with clinical and forensic psychologist Pam Tudin. We spoke about matters relating to teenagers, and if you have a teenager or your kids are about to move into the teenage years, or maybe you're a teenager, this video is for you. If there is one takeaway that I got from this video, it's about attachment, how critically important it is to have that attachment between you and your teenager, and if you do have it already, how to maintain it. Before we move on to the interview, let me tell you a little bit about Pam. She is a consultant to schools on social media management for children. She's the co-developer of EQ in a Box. She is the co-founder of Chat, Conversations Happening All the Time. She is also a national and international speaker on child-related issues. She is the co-founder of the Core Vision Change and Leadership Management Consultancy. And she also is the co-developer of the app Access, how to keep your teen cool and safe online. Pam also co-authored a book called Your Teen Unleashed. What a great book. I had the privilege of reading it, and in my opinion, I think it should be on every parent's shelf before you have a teenager. If you would like a copy of the book, at the end of the video, there'll be an email address where you can go and grab your copy. But the first 3 people will get a free online copy. Page 81, I was going to show it to you, but I'm not. Rather go and get a copy, is an eye-opener. Every page is actually an eye-opener, but what an incredible book. Let's not waste any more time. Let's chat to Pam Tudin. Welcome to Subject Matter, and thank you for being with us. So today we wanted to talk about teenagers. There are many, I would say, topics under teenagers which we could discuss, like money, sex, social media. But before we go into that, just tell us a little bit about what you do and the work that you do.
Lots of money, lots of sex, no teenagers, no, I'm kidding. That's exactly what I do. I consult to schools, I see a lot of teenagers in therapy, I give talks, all on the current challenges that teenagers face in the 21st century, and more what we as parents can do to not get into that funk of a space, which is, oh my God, the teenage years, but rather, okay, lekker, here come the teenage years, let's go. And keep it in a space where we can hold the optimism around teenagers.
Optimism?
Yeah,
there is?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. So I think that it's a time of blank slates, actually, rather than pessimism and concern. I think that obviously, given their brain structure at this time, we have to be alive to the notion that they are looking for excitement and danger to. That's the purpose of being a teenager,
right.
to grow that part of their frontal cortex so that can actually leave home, that they can take risks and do those things, but we just have to create it in a way that is in keeping with what we hope for them, rather than, them landing or kind of falling face first in places we don't want them to.
Sure. I find that the tools with our teenager, it's very, I've run out of tools. So I was driving to work this morning and they were talking on the radio about how to get your kids to bath. So this is like 1 to 10, 3 to 10 age years.
Actually, a 13-year-old, you have to really
also struggle.
Shove them into the shower. Yeah.
Well, in this instance, a woman phoned in and said, look, her son, he was about 4 at the time, and he walked into the room and he had never seen her naked before. And he saw her naked, he got a fright, and he turned around and he said, why do you look like that? And she said to him, well, and she took the opportunity and she said that the reason is because when I was your age, I never bathed, I never kept myself clean, and so it fell off. And he's been bathing ever since. So it's a little crazy thing. Obviously, dealing with it later might be an issue. But we don't have those things with teenagers because it's like you can't trick their brains, you can't manipulate them into this bargaining thing. Nothing really works. If they're going to slam their door, they're going to slam their door. If they're going to back chat, they're going to back chat. How do you deal with that?
So I mean, just listening to that story, for me, the first thing that really is needed is honesty, because I think that kind of bites us in the bum all the time. So when you're having that conversation about drugs or sex or whatever it might be, are drugs liquor? Yes, they are. Do you feel good on them? You do.
Yeah.
But it's about what you do with that conversation.
Right.
And even in things like teenagers sending texts, and we struggle to have the real, honest, open conversation. But there are ways of doing it that are fine for us and honest for them. So you can be driving in your car, you don't have to look at them, they don't have to look at you, that's hard for them.
Yes.
And you can say, from the broad to the narrow.
Right.
So, do you know anyone in your class who's sending a text, or maybe even in your grade? Keep it even broader. Yeah, sure. Really? And what do you think about that? And what about in your class? Yeah, and in your circle of friends? Anyone downloading porn? Yeah. So now you're having that conversation in a way that goes from the broad to the narrow, and you keep it light without getting hysterical, without responding with judgment. That is
and you almost
biggest
removed
thing.
from them answering it about themselves. They're just
you're working towards that place.
Okay.
You are working towards that
narrow.
place. But what you're showing them is we can have this conversation without me coming down on you with a judgment. So when they say, yeah, of course my friends are on Pornhub, okay, and what does that feel like for you? What do you think about it? What do you think that they do with it? As opposed to giving them a whole big spiel on, sexism and how wrong it is and how women are portrayed.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah, so it's just like, it's okay to have these chats with me. I'm not going to come down on you. So that when they make the mistakes, which they're going to do, they can come and know this is a space where a conversation can land without feeling like I'm going to kind of have my neck kind of slit.
Sure. So what you're saying is to have conversation, to be open and to talk to them.
Yeah.
What do you do, for example, if, like with our boy, with our kid, he doesn't want to engage? I mean, maybe I haven't really asked him the way you've posed it now, but they shut you off like immediately. There's no engagement. So if you speak about anything related to social media, you're stupid. They look at you as if you don't know what you're talking about. As an example, our kid he's got flu, but he can't go to school because he's got flu, but he's ready to get on his bicycle and go to his friend's house and spend the weekend there and not sleep. And now how do you, and when you talk to them about that, they think that you are really like missing a couple of screws in your brain.
So what I'm getting is that in a way you've entered the power struggle already. You can't go to school, but you can go to your friend. I'm not approving of who you are.
Oh my gosh. It's so true.
So kind of 3 steps back is, or even to just hold true to your values. So without engaging it, to say, I don't want to say his name, but call him Peter, to say, what, Peter, it doesn't sit lekker with me that you are going to your buddy, but you can't go to school,
So again, you're almost getting down to that level.
Well,
you're
just
not
kind of,
from this.
just it's not okay with me. We're not going to do battle over it. It just is like that. Okay. And I think they're begging for a line in the sand. All the time they are begging for a line in the sand because they need to push against it. In the same way that a kid in the chocolate aisle at 5 o'clock is screaming their head off and wanting the boundary that says, actually, the answer is no. You can be their safe space.
Yes. That
you can scream and be difficult and whatever, but I'm just going to pick you up and say, it's no chocolate now, we're going home for supper.
Yeah.
And they feel that, they might be screaming, I hate you, I hate you.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, the teenagers doing that in the same way they did when they were 2.
Yeah.
But it's not personal. So how come when they're 2 years old, they can scream, I hate you, and we still pick them up and love them and say, okay, that's all good, we're still going home for supper, but there's no chocolate. I hate you because you won't let me go to my friend. It's all good. I get it. That's fine. Not engaging all the time. It's not a personal affront. It's just, we don't get social media. They're right.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, but the boundary has to be set.
Yeah.
Without the power struggle.
So basically, we know that we've set the boundary. We've spoken to them. We've engaged with them. But at the end of the day, they're still going to do it. And that's also for me like quite scary. Is that, you know, we didn't give our son a cell phone up until he was like 13. And what was interesting about that is that he was actually like almost backward, because he wasn't as fast as developing on that, you know, as the other kids were. And we then ended up isolating him because he was the only one who didn't have a cell phone in his group. But I know that he is on all these social media platforms and looking at all these things and engaging with people he doesn't even know, possibly. I mean, I don't know. And I mean, you feel like your hands are tied, you're helpless. So you just let it go. I mean, you engage, but you have to trust.
So I think it comes back to, let's start with the first issue, because I hear that comment all the time. Like, on the one hand, they have to have a phone because otherwise they're not going to be part of the group, and they use all sorts of excuses. You know, I have to have a phone because I need an alarm clock, my best excuse of all. I have to have a phone because I get my homework on it. Whatever their reason that they're giving you, what they're really saying is they need a phone for attachment. It is their way of feeling connected in the world. And if we don't allow that, we are holding them back from a level of attachment. It is the way in which we allow that. So does the phone go to bed at night? Do we know what apps they're on? TikTok is an app that I really struggle with, but it is also a really creative app and a really beautiful forum for some things. But I read something recently that TikTok is like Snapchat, Instagram, and WhatsApp all in one, in a blender, until your head explodes. And I think that's right, because you're just scrolling, and you have no idea what's coming, and that's what's exciting for them.
Sure.
That they, you can see somebody jumping off a cliff, and you can see somebody who's suicidal, actually. So, it's very arousing, actually, for them on a chemical level to be part of TikTok. But there is that creative side. So if you set things in place in the beginning and say to them, okay, I'm going to let you have TikTok. Every now and then I'm going to check in with you and let's chat about who's your favorite person at the moment? Charlie D'Amelio. Well, Charlie D'Amelio is an 18-year-old girl, hotter than hot. But what is she doing? She's doing beautiful dances, and the kids subscribe to it, and they try and emulate those. Is it ideal? It's not ideal, but we were no different. We got off a school bus, and the first thing we did was we picked up the phone to find the very friend we were on the school bus with, because we want attachment in the teenage years. So, coming back to your comment on how do we hold back on giving them the phone, I think we can't hold back. We don't stop kids going to school because there may be drugs at school. What we do is we say, go to school, but these are the skills you need when that person comes up to you. So how do we help them to step up into their world and, be in it, but not of it?
Sure.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. How about the money side of things? I know that when I was a kid, I know for a fact, and I'm not, referring to inflation, my parents were not spending as much money as we're spending on our son right now. There are cell phone contracts, iPad contracts. They're going to have laptops for school as well, but computers, gaming, Steam accounts, data. Oh my word! Yeah, and it's when I add up my bank statement at the end of the month, it's like 12 rand data, 12. It does add up. And the value system around money for teenagers. I keep referring to me because that's just the easiest way, but. Our boy has chores. He has to do his chores. He also has to earn his own money. He's at the age where he's allowed to work. But it's costing a couple of $1,000 a month to look after his social needs. Do you think that they should be contributing towards that when they get to that age? Or, do we give them too much too quickly? How do we teach them about the value of money?
I love talking to teens about money stuff, because I think that it's something that, again, it's like a taboo topic. God forbid we talk to them about sex, and we certainly don't talk to them about money, other than in a punitive way. We keep telling them, you're costing us too much. But we don't talk to them about how can they make money? How can we shift that relationship that we have with them in terms of money? So I think the first thing is to know our own relationship to money. So what do I mean by that? We all have a money biography, right? And you know this better than I will ever know this. And our money biography is that early message that we got around money. How we felt about it, what we thought about it, what did people say about it? Were the wealthy people in your area stinking rich? Or were they so lucky because the rich always get richer? What were the messages that we heard? And then what was your first experience? So, for example, I know at one stage, I remember so clearly, I was walking and I had a 2 rand coin, which back then was huge money, and it slipped out my hand and fell into the water drain. And I was devastated. And my granny said, "Don't worry, sweetheart." And she opened her purse, she gave me more money. Okay.
Yeah.
In that moment, my money profile was formed. And although it sounds lovely and kind and generous, it actually was not such a great learning opportunity.
Right,
because things get entrenched early on. So we really have 4 money profiles, all of us. First, we have to know our own. So those are a tyrant, a chancer, an innocent, and a magician. So the tyrant, you take those early messages and say, for example, you had a poor upbringing and it was difficult and challenging and there was never enough. The pendulum swings when you are an adult and you say, "That's it, I'm never going to suffer again and I'm going to do whatever I can to hold on as tight as I can to the pennies. Never mind the bodies that I leave lying in the gutter," right? That's your profile. And you probably make a lot of money, probably don't have a lot of people in your life around you. Then you have the innocent. The innocent has the same poor upbringing, for example, but they go the exact opposite direction. So they come and see Richelle, and Richelle says to them, "You know what, you need to read this document, and then we're going to talk about insurance." And they go, "I can't read documents, they're not for me." And so they spend their lives going, "I have no skill, I have no ability, I can't engage this, money's just too difficult for me."
Right.
And then they don't make money. Then you have your chancer, and your chancer is somebody who has a light relationship with money, almost too light. So they go, "Oh, great business idea, someone, you know what, I'm not going to read the documents, it sounds awesome, I'm optimistic." So optimistic people, optimism is a beautiful emotion in relation to money, and it often works, but it can also bomb out. So those people make and lose.
Could be like a bit of delusion there as well.
100%, because I don't want to get to grips with the real stuff. And then ultimately, there's the magician. And the magician is somebody who lets money work for them. They have that fine, beautiful balance between engaging it, but also being generous with it, having the ability to be kind, but looking through the stuff and knowing when to handbrake. So if we know our own money profile, we can immediately begin to inform how our children will feel about money.
And I'm already like, my mind is like thinking, okay, what am I? What have I now projected onto my kid?
And we all do.
Crazy.
We all do.
Yeah.
So we have to decide, what do we want our child to be in relation to money? And I mean, I was listening to you saying your son's got chores. Awesome. But there are some chores that one has to do in a family by virtue of being in a family.
Yeah.
Right?
To be clear, he's not paid for his chores.
Brilliant.
At all.
Brilliant.
There's just certain things, but there are consequences attached to those chores. So if he doesn't get the chores done for the weekend chores, if they're not done first, there's no gaming.
Right. Absolutely.
You know.
So you've you know, that's a consequence enough.
Yeah.
You do your work and then you can get your reward.
Yeah.
However, if he wanted to earn more data than you allow, then there are those super chores, we call them, the hard stuff. Now you're going to go and wash the car as opposed to feed the dog and take your plates off the table, which is what you do if you're in a family.
Yes.
But if you wash the car, maybe you can earn some extra data.
Yeah.
But then there's subtle things too, like if you participate in family life in a big way, you sit at the table when there are guests around and you chat and you engage and you choose to belong, because what we're trying to create all the time is the attachment and the belonging.
Yeah.
Then the next day you can say, "You know what? So chuffed with you. You know, you sat with us last night. We all felt like we were family, watching our favorite show, whatever it was. It doesn't have to be engagement with words.
Yes.
I'm going to let you have some extra time. Thanks for doing that."
Sure.
So what they begin to see is that participation and attachment can also lead to reward.
Sure.
And that's another way of giving a money message.
Yeah.
You know, because the world does reward engagement.
Yeah, sure. That's very interesting.
Yeah, just small things that make a little difference around
Yeah.
the messages we give.
As far as concerns about your teenager, what are the signs that one should know there might be a problem? For example, like staying in your room all day, not wanting to engage with parents. All teenagers are behind closed doors. But you hear of teen suicides, and you hear of drugs, and you hear of all these crazy things which you don't really think is in your space, not necessarily in your home, but it certainly is on the cell phone that your child is on. How do we, and I'm sure you'd say things like check in, but how do we know that our kids are okay and we shouldn't be a little bit more concerned?
So it's such a hard question because teenagers are behind closed doors. Often parents say to me, "What's my son doing behind closed doors?" I say, "What do you think he's doing behind the closed door?" We have to remember who we were in that moment.
Yeah.
But if that behind closed doors is creating attachment somewhere else, so they are messaging a friend, or they are working on their guitar, or they are trying to come up with a new app, that is a space that you can allow. But the minute you do not really know what's going on behind closed doors, and you're struggling to get a level of engagement, not about what's happening behind closed doors, but they open the door and they still can be present with you. Okay. That's the struggle moment. That's the alarm that you want to go, it's been 3 days, we haven't even had like a little bit of humor between us, or an eye roll, or something that says, "Yes, Mom, you don't get me," in a light way, in a happier kind of feeling, as opposed to that aggressive teenager that opens the door over and over and over again, who feels misunderstood, who doesn't feel heard, who feels judged by you all the time, who feels criticized. That's what they feel. And we're not easy in our communication with them. So, and I'm guilty of this all the time myself. When that door opens, I'm like, "Have you done your homework? Are you?"
We bombard them.
We bombard them.
Yeah.
And especially if they're a boy, they can really only hear one thing a day.
Yeah. Okay.
And they've only got 100 words a day anyway, and maybe that conversation happens in the morning, then you can't expect the 100 words to be reused. You're done for the day.
Yeah, it actually feels like that. But you bombard them because you're so insecure you're so worried that things are not okay, and that are they passing at school? Socially, are they okay? There's a lot of bullying that goes on, and I know we've also had that issue before. And kids are mean. They can be really, really mean.
I think that's such a big thing, is that kids are mean, and we are too quick, I think, in our society at the moment, to use the word bully. So we dive into a place of anxiety, like, "Oh, my child's been bullied," especially when they're in the younger grades.
Yeah.
So I'm not excusing bullying on any level, and I'm not condoning it, and of course we have to react. But I do think there's some things we have to let play out. So what I mean by that, there's a difference between the mean kid and the bully. The mean kid could have had an argument with his mom or dad in the morning and feels a bit crap about himself and goes to school and takes it out on someone else.
Yeah.
It's a mean kid at a point in time.
Right.
But the kid might come home, the so-called receiver of that, and say, "I got bullied today," and then on the phone and responding.
Yeah.
Some of it has to play out.
Yeah.
The bully is the child who intentionally seeks out the one person who has no resource, who has no skill, and they repeatedly victimize that person. The mean kid will, engage somebody who just happens to be near them. The bully will seek the child who does not have the EQ to respond. And, EQ is like my passion space.
Okay.
And maybe we should chat about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But if a child's got EQ, they can handle what happens out there in the school space.
So what do you mean about EQ? What is the definition of EQ?
So it's such a big concept.
Yes.
And I've tried to kind of narrow it down a little bit into ways that we can really just come to grips with it and really know whether our child is developing it or not. So EQ can be divided into 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is the ability to name what it is that I feel. So if I can say, I'm really angry with you that you're not going to give me pocket money, as opposed to slam the door and not come out for 4 hours, that is the beginning of EQ, because I can name that feeling.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And what we want our children to do is get beyond bad, sad, glad, and mad. Those 4 feelings. You know, that's like all they can really name. And sometimes as teens, they go back to that.
Yes.
But what you want them is to have a little bit of grey in between. I'm not really angry, Mum. I'm so frustrated that my maths teacher isn't helping me. That is EQ. In that moment, you go, tick, yay, we are starting to get there.
Yes.
But you want them to move on. You want them to get to a space where they can name their feeling and manage it. So I'm really angry that you won't give me pocket money, but I know that it's Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. It's probably not the right time to ask you. So I can manage that feeling and wait until Sunday night when you've had a good weekend.
Yeah.
Then, if you can name your feelings and manage your feelings, you can begin to know what it is that other people feel. You can name what it is that other people feel. So you can look around a room and go, probably, that person, and this is where the bully comes in.
Yeah.
The bully will be able to look around the room and see the person who can't name their feelings, actually.
So what do we say about a bully's EQ?
So I'm going to come to that in a sec. So bullies are extraordinary at quadrant 3. They know what other people are feeling and who to choose and who to pull.
Right.
But they are terrible at quadrant 1 and 2. They have no idea what it is that they are feeling, and they have no idea how to manage it.
So that's why they're focusing on someone else.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's a way of projecting it all.
Right.
So what we know, for example, of people who grow up with alcoholic parents, okay, they are also brilliant at quadrant 3, because they know that fine moment when the father goes from being, or the mother, from being a happy drunk to a drunk that's going to give you a clap.
Yeah.
And they're constantly on the look for that moment. Then they grow up and they're the people pleasers. They're the people who go, I can see you tired, would you like a cold drink? But they cannot name their own feelings, and those people often become depressed. So if we can help our children go from quadrant 1, I know my feeling, in order, quadrant 2, I can manage it. Quadrant 3, I can begin to read the room. And ultimately, quadrant 4, which is leadership, in the sense that I can name my feelings, manage them, and then I can know what you feel. And if I know what you feel, I can motivate you in relation to those feelings.
Sure.
So it's the kid in the classroom when it's raining who says, you know what, guys, we're not going to play cricket, we're all going to play marbles, and all the kids go, awesome, because he read the moment.
Yes.
But the kid who doesn't have that ability, the next day will say, let's all play marbles. They go, are you crazy? You're going to play cricket.
Sure.
Right?
Wow.
And it's now. It's hard for that child.
Sure.
But the upside of that is that quadrant 4 is it's aspirational. Not everyone has to have leadership. And besides for that, there are many different kinds of leadership. There's quiet leadership now. The world is not just recognizing the Trumps as the leaders.
Yes.
The world is recognizing people who lead from behind. So in relation to the bully, if you can help your child to not wear that sticker that says, I'm not really sure how things are going for me right now, and to assert themselves even if they're not feeling it, to use body posture, to change who they are and how they present until it becomes real for them, then they're not going to be the one who the bully looks around the room and chooses. Which is not to say that that is always the case, but it is largely what happens for those kids. And they come home and they weep because they feel so victimized, but they don't have the ability to engage it strongly.
So I mean, it's kind of responsibility as a parent. I mean, emotional guidance should be from the get-go. And our behavior obviously has such a huge impact on how our kids turn out.
Yeah, because we can't always name our feelings.
Well, I mean, you're speaking about EQ now, and I'm thinking, myself.
Me too. On the road.
Yeah,
but it's okay to be on the road, isn't it?
Yeah. No, absolutely. As long as your intention is everything, and wanting to get better and to do better things, or to be better within, I suppose.
So, for example, in that space, because I often mess up, I might go to one of my kids and say, you know what, I just shouted at you, but I just realized that I'm actually feeling exhausted or upset really, maybe I'm upset.
So there's number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It doesn't matter the age, we can own our stuff.
Yeah.
We can always say sorry, we can always say, actually, I thought I felt this with you, but actually I feel this with somebody else and I took it out on you. Because what are we doing? We're modeling to them that it is okay tomorrow for them to come say, gee, Mum, I slammed the door. I'm actually really just pissed off that I got an F for maths.
Yeah, no, I get it. We need our teachers to have EQ. Eek.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your book. You wrote about social media.
So I co-authored it with somebody.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I've recently, shockingly, found out that the brinjal emoji is not a brinjal.
A brinjal is not just a brinjal.
Right, and I'm still sweating from that.
But funny you should say that, because the sweat emoji is also not what you think it is.
Really?
Yeah, the sweat emoji is actually sperm.
No.
Yep. The wind emoji.
The sweat emoji with that little drop here. That.
No, the one where you see somebody actually blowing.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to your imagination.
Right. Sorry. Sure.
Yeah.
So
an erupting champagne bottle.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have their whole thing for them. It's a language. It's a way of communicating, and it's a way of trying to attach to the other. It's also a way of keeping us out. Okay. We were no different. We just didn't have the same kind of things that, the same
we had our code words.
Of course we did.
We were pretty cool.
Yeah,
I was cool. I'm such a nerd now.
Well, so isn't that amazing to know? You were all cool and you were doing all of these things, and look where you landed. So that's the message, is to have a little bit of faith in them.
Yes.
And if they do send a sext, and they are going to, 68%. Yeah. 68% of kids in South Africa between the age of 11 and 15 are sending. So it's almost 7 out of 10. So pretty sure between your kids and mine, they are going to be in that clump of 7. Very unlikely that they'll be in the clump of 3, right?
Sure.
So how do we help them in those moments to manage it? If we use that analogy of there are drugs at school, but how are you going to cope when they come your way?
Right.
So when you get asked for a sext, again, we in the car driving. Anyone in your grade sent sexts yet? Yeah. Really? Okay. What do you think about it? How did you engage? Like, what was your response? You hear what the child's response is, and usually it's humor. Okay. So, oh my God, it was so funny. You can't believe, and you have to bring it into a space of, okay, so for sure that's going to happen to you at some point.
Sure.
Or, and you have to say, I hope you're not going to be the person who asks, but you might be the person who gets asked. How are you going to, respond to that? What are you going to do?
So you would actually say, I hope you're not the person who asks?
Yes, because you have to explain the dangers of that.
Right.
Okay, they do have to know that this is the real, you can actually go to juvenile.
Right, of course,
There's crime stuff attached to that, which we can get into another time.
Yes.
But what I'm here today for is how do we respond in those moments?
Right.
So, at the dinner table, funny responses to create the alternative no. Because the teen brain cannot say no. Please send me a pic of your gorgeous bod without a shirt on. Mm-hmm. The teen goes, I feel chosen. They looked at me. They want me. Wow. How else? And they have no idea that either it's a predator or their friend or someone in their class that has 5 of his friends sitting with him or her friends, because guys and girls ask for sex for different reasons, but they both do. How can you create the alternative no? So what are you wearing right now? Mm-hmm. In that moment, they're not going to turn the phone off. So at the dinner table, you say, what are you gonna respond? Let's think of the best response. So the other night, my son said, if someone did that to me, I'd say I'm wearing my fuzzy jersey that my granny sent me. So like it's a downer in that moment. Yes. He hasn't said no. He hasn't lost credibility. He's Now the real thing here is I can still have those conversations because they're not 15. If you wait until they're 15, they will not have these conversations with you. They won't play with you. But when they're 11 and 12 and 13, they will still play with you. You can laugh about these things because they're not quite there. Yeah. Right? So that's the golden moment. And then when they're 15, you have to trust on some level.
It's difficult. And what is sexting?
So sexting is when you either send a pic or receive a pic. We'd ask for one. It can also just be a conversation in which you really, for lack of a better word, engage in really sexual conversation with somebody. That it can happen on Fortnite. You get pulled off. If you fall down in the game, you go onto what they call a landing deck,
Right.
And there you sit with a whole lot of people waiting for the next game, and people will engage you. You know, and say, oh, your game's improved so much, you're awesome.
Yeah.
And they pull you off that landing deck into a chat room, which happens often, and that can become the space in which a relationship gets developed with, you know, now you think you're talking to a 17-year-old who's going to give you skills, and he saw you play, and you're doing so well, and then just by the by. Or much more innocent, somebody recently shared with me, she was asked for a picture of her hands because somebody saw her mom saw her picture, and she thinks that she's got modeling potential, and just send me a pic of your hands and your feet, and we actually just need it from your neck up, and it was all just verification that you are eligible, and then ultimately it became a topless picture.
And teenagers actually get lured into.
Well, they build credibility. The person who's asking builds credibility. Loved the red dress that you wore last night.
Yeah.
So they think that they know the person.
Sure.
And all you have to do is, you know, go onto someone's Instagram, see where they were last night, see that they were in a red dress, create a fake profile, and you're away.
Sure.
So, you know, those are the things that you have to warn kids about.
It's very scary. Wow. I just opened the book, and we'll show this on the screen. Am I allowed to show this?
I don't know, are you allowed to?
I'm allowed to. I'm quite shocked. I'm like, I didn't realize that.
If
Or
you turn
that.
the page, you'll see a whole lot more.
Oh my goodness.
So the whole point of the book is not just to...
Wait, they have like numbers that mean something.
Yeah, P911 means parent alert. That means my mom or dad just walked in the room, gotta go.
Yeah,
you know,
wow.
GTG.
Just by the way, folks, if you want to know what 143 means, I love you. I am shocked. Wow.
So these are all just, you know, acronyms that I collected with kids.
And this is for real. This is
properly for real.
This is unbelievable.
And what
You need to go out and get this book. This book is incredible. Wow.
But really, the aim of the book is to help parents feel like they can have these conversations without the battle around social media. And that's the tone of the book.
Well, I think we've got, there could be a profile of parents here who reads this book, takes all of this and abuses it.
Correct.
And I think that's like, you know, that's a responsibility that the parent holds, because you could be like, for example, your kid could even just use, I suppose he could use the peach in a text to his parent, not meaning that, but they will take that now the wrong way because the kid wouldn't actually use that, no, because they know what it means. That is just disgusting. Okay.
But really what we're saying is the conversation starters at the end of every chapter around, for example, Tinder for teens, because there's Tinder for teens now.
You've got to be kidding.
I'm not.
Wow. Sure.
Or, you know, how to create a contract around social media stuff with your kid without having the fight.
Yeah.
And part of that contract is that they have a contract with you.
Yes.
Also, so it's a mutual thing. You know, please, Mom, don't upload 55,000 pictures of me on your antiquated Facebook page.
Right. Yeah, they think Facebook is ancient.
And it is. Absolutely.
I thought that was so cool.
I mean, we use it. Of course we use it. But if you go onto the gram, Instagram, then, you know, you're in for such a much more rich and textured and much more, you know, you get what you want, and you can curate your own page, and it's beautiful. And these are the things that we need to discover with them, not against them.
Okay, but as a parent, do you look at, let's just the brinjal and say anything? You don't say anything, do you? You just let it go.
So it goes to what you were talking about earlier, right? Am I concerned about my child, or am I not? Right?
Okay.
And part of the contract is that if I'm concerned about you, you know, there is an open line of communication around your phone.
Yeah.
At any point, I can look at your phone if I have concern. In the same way that you would look in their drawer if you were worried about them doing drugs. Right? So you don't snoop every day. Of course you don't. It's when you have that alarm bell and you first have the conversation. I'm concerned. And then how do they respond? If they respond with a level of openness, they're never going to be completely open.
Yeah.
Then you are still connected.
So it's engagement.
It's engagement. The minute the engagement's gone, the alarm bells are.
So what about this deleting texts?
It's yeah, absolutely. Adults do it, you know. So that's why the kids love Snapchat, because in 3 minutes it's all gone. There's no, in their mind, there's no evidence.
Sure. Wow, thank you for that. That's, I need some
talk about all of that for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's really just to remember that what they're trying to do is stay attached. And if we can provide the attachment in exciting ways, so we are forever saying no as parents. But yes, also has kick-ass value. You know? Can I go skydiving? Yes. Because what you're doing in that space is, I'm letting you have that chemical release that you're trying to get through selling the brinjal. So find ways to say yes that give them that. Don't respond to every eye roll. Have a code word between you and your partner. My husband and I, we use the word umbria, which is where we once went before they were born.
Yes.
And it was really nice and peaceful. I mean, the struggles, right? Because what am I saying to him when I say umbria? I'm saying, tag in, I'm done. I can't manage right now. You take over with this. Whatever it is.
Yes.
So we have that. To choose your battles. I was working away recently and my son sent me a message that said, sup dude. Right?
Wow.
And I thought to myself, for this, I paid for private education. My first response was just fury.
Yes.
But then when I bit my tongue, I realized he was just staying connected with me.
Isn't that cool?
And that's cool. So I responded. You know, and then we had a conversation on WhatsApp that I would otherwise not have had if I'd come down on him about, that's not how you talk to your mother.
Sure.
So I wouldn't accept it as an everyday form of communication. But he was just saying, how's it, Mom?
If our kid wrote to me and said, sup dude, oh man, I would probably frame that. I'd take photographs of it, put it up. I'd be so excited.
In that moment, he's saying, you cool enough for me to want to engage. And often I'm not. Often I'm not.
No,
that's okay too.
We're like the plague. I really do feel like the plague. But yes, that's another thing. You are not your child's friend. I've seen parents who all about the relationship, and I've got the most amazing relationship with my child. Anytime your child is drinking, I saw the photographs. Your child is not your friend. You need to have that boundary in place.
Absolutely. I often say to them, you have a million friends, you've got one limit.
That's
so
so true.
You're going to treat her,
Yeah, that's so true.
And in that moment, like the softer my voice gets often, and oh my goodness, now we're in trouble.
Really? Really? Okay. Yeah, we used to freak out, eh? I mean, we did. We were so stressed about his behavior and what he was doing. And it's funny because the less we freak out, the less he gets into trouble. So it's actually had a different impact, and he is engaging with us, and we do have a better relationship now. And you have to take a step back as a parent. And I think, for parents it's difficult because we feel isolated, we feel alone. I can't imagine what a single parent must feel like. But parents are not on the same page with each other because there's judgment, there's religion, there's a whole lot of stuff that comes into it.
And the kids play one up against the other.
Totally, absolutely, exactly. Like, oh, I heard your child was drinking. Actually, and basically the child of that parent who's writing to us, their child was just managing their issue at home. So these other kids were drinking. Can you believe it? So now already the parent has totally blocked their child out. But actually their child was part of it, photographed and everything. So, parents also in a bit of denial. We're throwing this all on the teenagers, but
I think
actually it comes with us.
100%. We do have to lift the veil off a little bit.
Yes.
And maybe just to say to you that, yes, we have to engage, but I think you're right too, that sometimes it's about giving them a bit of space. Sure. And remembering that we're in the chocolate aisle. It's just a slightly more sophisticated chocolate aisle.
But we're there.
We're saying no, and when they hate us, it's temporary.
Yes.
And we can still love them and still stay attached.
I used to take the hate thing very personally, but I don't anymore. It doesn't bother me. And it doesn't really happen that much anymore.
Because you're not histrionic about it.
Yes, exactly. Pam,
Easier said than done, I guess.
always easier said than
And
done.
I'm sure if my children
Yeah.
watch this, they'll be laughing because there are many days where I'm not exemplary and, we're all
Sure.
just on the journey.
Pam, how old are your children?
They're about to be 13 and 11.
Double digits.
Yeah.
Oh, teenage double digits. Are you nervous?
Am I nervous?
Of
I-
the 14, 15 and 16
What I
months?
am is every day I think to myself, did I create attachment? Did I hold attachment? Did I make room for attachment? And so, for example,
Yeah.
I don't give a toss about Liverpool at all.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
But I know a hell of a lot about it.
Mm.
Because when the hard times come, and they do now, they are flying in.
Yes.
I will talk to my eldest son about Liverpool because it's a neutral space that he feels passionate about.
Right.
But it's neutral for us.
Yeah.
And it's my way back in. And it's his way back in.
Wow.
So after one of us has lost our cool, he can come to me and say, oh, did you see what happened? So and so got kicked off the team.
Oh, wow.
It's neutral. And so am I nervous? I suppose it's more an anxiousness around making sure that attachment is in place.
Sure.
And that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.